Welcome on into the Utah Blockcast. I'm Steve Bartle, Utah insider for KSL Sports. Joined tonight by Tyson, Josh Bennett. Fellas, tough game yesterday. Watching the Utes go down 34-10 to Texas Tech. Big game, big opportunity. And unfortunately, the Red Raiders came into Salt Lake and, earned a statement win. And I think that was a big one. But, we're here to talk all things, about the game, some of our takeaways, some of the things that we learned from that game and what we can, talk about moving forward with this team and what we need to see from them moving forward. So, to start, just how we doing on a Sunday night, a day after the game, and had some time to think on some things and reflect on the weekend that was. Just how we doing, fellas?
It's been better,
Yeah.
Fandom wise, at least. I move on pretty well from losses at this point. I've got 2 kids to keep me busy on Sundays after a loss. So it's probably a little bit worse that it was a 10 a.m. game and to lose in that fashion, because then you kind of just let it stew all day instead of just being able to all right, turn it off and go to bed. If it was a later game, but after we're done recording this, it's on to West Virginia at this point. It's all you can do.
I'm with Tyson there. I would have loved to go to bed, maybe do some post-game stuff and go right to bed. Didn't really have that luxury. Had to sit in it for a bit. Today, luckily, had the family, like Tyson, 2 kids. So we did the breakfast thing at Roos Diner, then went to the zoo, then did Guardsman Pass, and then did a birthday party. So it was just nonstop, action-packed Sunday. Got to forget about football for the most part. But ultimately feel pretty good. It sucks. I would have loved to capitalize yesterday, but there are a lot of moments where we could have taken that game. And it's important to remember it was a 3-point game with 10 minutes to go, and then things got ugly. So where things got ugly, love to see that get cleaned up. Love to see some fight this upcoming week. And can't wait to put this one officially behind us.
Yeah, I think that's a thing to remember, right? Is despite the final score, it was still 13-10. Utah had momentum, 8:33 left in the fourth quarter. And then unfortunately things broke loose for Texas Tech. And, it's probably a product of things that didn't happen for Utah, throughout the course of the game. But still, Utah was in that thing for 50 minutes and kept it tight, kept it competitive. And I think the big thing, from that game is the fan base, showed up, showed out, showed Texas Tech fans a good time. And I think, made a very strong impression on a national stage. So, Utah fans can pat themselves on their back a little bit, for their showing this weekend. But obviously, look, fans don't win games, and we all know that. And so I think this one definitely hurts. It's another missed opportunity and another missed opportunity, on a national stage. I think that's 2 consecutive losses where, whether it's ESPN College Game Day or now Fox Big Noon Kickoff, that Utah's dropped the ball in this sort of fashion, which it hurts. And I think people have caught on to that. And, this was a big opportunity for Utah that they just weren't able to capitalize on. So, with this episode obviously coming off of a loss, we won't go into the Lodge Hat winner. I'll take care of that privately. We won't out who won it because somebody did predict the Texas Tech win. Yeah, we won't out them publicly. But yeah, we'll take care of that at a different time, a different place. And obviously,
but shout out Lodge Hats. That good setup at the tailgate. Good to hang with Lodge and see people come through and not just looking, but buying. He's moving some hats. Yeah. So a lot of good looking people out there with good looking hats after yesterday.
Yeah. Great opportunity. A lot of fun meeting a lot of people. Lodge has been great to work with for us, giving us a lot of these hats to give away. So it's been great. And then also the blockhead helmet sticker. We'll handle that next week. Yeah, we'll handle that next week. No stickers to hand out this week, unfortunately. So we're just going to dive into this one to talk through it, right? To talk through, the things that we learned, the things that we felt, because this is going to be this is a tough one, right? Everybody was amped for this game, right? Utah fans were tremendous, showing up, staying overnight. Shout out to the Must for staying overnight, with big noon kickoff and all that, showing up at 5 a.m., being rowdy from the jump, and then to have that sort of performance, and it was a tough scene for Utah fans in that second half. And so, we're just gonna talk through it on this episode. So let's start with what we learned, from this game. 34-10, lost to Texas Tech. What is the biggest thing that we learned from this game?
We still don't have the explosive play that we're after. I think we had one, and that came in the fourth quarter to Dallin Bentley.
Yeah.
We had another one. It just, it got called back.
Yeah.
And never went back to it, which I'm a little bummed about. But looking for the explosive play, but also just there's no throw game. And, we've kind of come to expect that from Utah teams, but, it's easier to not have a throw game when you have a run game, and they didn't really have that either because they didn't have a throw game. So
that's kind of what masked things the last few weeks, right? We didn't have a ton of throw game, but we were running the ball super well, and we're like, you know what? Right now, running feels sexy. When they stack the box against you, and it's not so fun when you can't throw it.
And I think too, we've got to give Texas Tech credit, right? Like, that was a good defense. This was not like Utah just completely crap in the bed. Like, Texas Tech invested a lot of money into that defensive line specifically, very likely because they knew Utah had a very good offensive line, right? And I'm not saying that was their whole motive. That's not what they were trying to do, trying to take Utah off the mountaintop. But understanding what Utah's strengths were and understanding kind of the lay of the land in the Big 12, having a strong defensive line is significant. And I'll tell you, that group lived up to the hype, lived up to the billing, and really, really impressed. So for me, and part of this too is Texas Tech, with the schedule that they played, had a lot of time to get ready for this one, right? With those two first early games, taking care of business, keeping things pretty simple, just being better athletes. Had a lot of extra time to probably watch Utah film and put together a game plan. So, Tech deserves a lot of credit for coming into Salt Lake City and making a statement. And that's exactly what they did. So for me, I think the big takeaway from my perspective is that Texas Tech defense was really good. And unfortunately, Utah just wasn't able to match the intensity, wasn't able to overcome some of the mistakes, some of the misfortunes, probably is the better way to say it. I think Texas Tech really impressed. I think that's a really good team. Really good defensively. Jacob Rodriguez really impressed, and so they deserve it. They earned that statement.
Yeah, that front seven was legit. Once again, it helps a little bit when they can kind of sell out against the run.
Yeah.
When you don't have or haven't at least shown the ability to throw behind it, save for the called back touchdown pass. It's just you're setting yourself up for failure when you don't do that or can't do that with a front seven that's that good. So, I mean, Texas Tech is as advertised. Utah might have helped them get better too by knocking Morton out. Because Will Henry looked
holy cow, dude. What do you have? Like a 96.6 grade? Something according to PFF? It was something like that. It was something crazy. He had 4 big time throws, and yeah, they were big time throws, man. Those were incredible throws.
Then and then of course he just misses like his easiest one, just a wide open touchdown pass with nobody around the receiver, and he somehow misses that one.
Yeah, it feels like that blueprint. Like, while we're talking about what we learned how to beat Utah, take away the run, force you to pass. The question is will teams be able to replicate that? Will they have that same level of talent along the front seven like Tech did? That question's probably not, but will teams have enough? Because they're certainly going to try. That's what Rich Rod's going to try to do this upcoming week. So we learned how to beat Utah, and we'll see how many teams can replicate that.
And I think that's a key point, right? Is like, yes, the blueprint has been provided by Texas Tech, right? Like, yes, that's clear. But who else has this sort of defensive line and have the sort of pass rushers on both sides of the ball? Sure, some of these programs, Arizona State, BYU, can generate pressure, but can they consistently generate it with four guys? Can they control the line of scrimmage like they did on the inside with Lee Hunter and Gil Howard, right? Is there another defense that has this talent up front? And I'm not sure that there is. So, that's important to keep in mind, is that this Tech team, I think is on a different level in terms of the talent, on that defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and we got to, not really let Utah off the hook here. I mean, you got all the hype around your offensive line being one of the best in the country. You got to show it, man. And especially on the inside, it seemed like the three guys on the inside got bullied a bit, and I'll call that concerning.
I think that's fair, right? Like, this was the strength of the team. This was, what Utah invested in. Spencer Fano, Caleb Lomu, the three interior guys, Tanoa Togiai, Jaron Kump, Michael Mokofisi. Those are the guys that have to, shoulder the responsibility, a lot of offensive success this year because they invested so much in that group. And, it's a group that through the first 3 weeks looked like they were going to be able to do it, this season. Right. And now they got, they had a little reality check. And unfortunately, right, we all talked about this game. I remember talking about this game, before the season started, right? We all talked about this game. Yeah, like, this was the game. When you're talking about a David Bailey and a Romello Height, this was the test, because there are no other programs that had guys on NFL draft boards as high as those two guys on Utah's schedule. This was the test. And unfortunately, like you said, Tyson, you can't let this group off the hook because they didn't play at a level that they needed to in this one. And unfortunately, that's a letdown. And, they're going to have to learn from it. There were some mental mistakes. Spencer Fano, he owned it. He knew that he messed up on that Jackson Benny touchdown reception. He knew it as soon as he saw Benny down the field. He realized where he was at on the field, and once he saw the flag, man, you could see his reaction. He was pissed and upset with himself, and he owned it in the post game comments. I think he was on with ESPN 700, and you could tell that weighed on him pretty heavily. So just there's a lot that goes around. It's not on any one individual. It's not on any one group, right? This is on all 22 guys, all 24 guys, special teams, because the Texas Tech special teams were phenomenal on Saturday. That punter had the day of his life, pinning Utah deep into their own territory time and time again. It felt like Utah was, digging themselves out of their own 10-yard line, on what, 3, 4, 5 possessions. Like, it just felt like Utah couldn't get out of their own territory. It was tough because, again, Texas Tech, their special teams had a tremendous day. But again, I'm going all over the place here. But yeah, Tyson, to your point, the offensive line didn't do what they need to. And that's a concern now.
Yeah. I felt like every punt that landed on the ground bounced straight up. Like, dude, just no forward bounce to any of those at all. And then their kicker makes what, a 58-yarder?
57-yarder.
57-yarder right after, I think Joel Klatt was like, I don't think he's got the leg for this. Utah should have a guy in the back of the end
zone. Dude, he had like, so much room. Yeah, dude. He booted that thing through it.
So, yeah, good on Texas Tech. But, yeah,
it sucks to say that stuff.
Yeah.
It sucks, right? Like, again, this was a game that we all thought Utah had a really good chance at winning. And unfortunately just didn't take care of business the way that they need to. I'm trying to find some of the punting stats. But just he had 5 inside the 20-yard line. Yeah, Mr.
Oh,
Burgess, 5 inside the 20, an average of 41 yards. He had 2 50-plus yard punts and a long of 54 with 5 inside the 20. In terms of, field position, I'm trying to find that number now. But, yeah, Utah was just backed up against, their own goal line. Anyways, yeah, just tough. And I think for Utah moving forward now, I think we're all kind of curious, like, how does Utah move forward? How do they figure out what they need to do? But any other thoughts, anything else that we learned from this game, fellas?
Got to put some emphasis on holding on to the ball too, right? That's
yep.
2 back-to-back drives around midfield that we gave it to them. The game was a punch in the balls, if you will. Back-to-back drives to make those fumbles, and another just an emphasis on the defense and how hard they played to go into the half with a 10-3 score. Felt like we were up by 30 points just because of not actually up by, but you know what I mean. It felt good. It felt like a win in of itself.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the 170-plus yard play on that first drive, like the defense was pretty nails for the entire first half. Some mental mistakes, I think, on the defensive side too. But again, those are mental mistakes can get cleaned up. I don't think there were a couple of them maybe that just, you just kind of got to just throw your hands up and be like, all right, next play. But for the most part, it's a couple mental mistakes here and there that gave up big plays, but I mean, those are fixable.
Yeah.
They got to fix them.
Yeah. And to the defense's credit, right? So outside of the opening touchdown drive that they gave up, the next, let me see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 out of the next 9 Texas Tech possessions ended up either in a punt or a takeaway. Texas Tech had a field goal in there to end, at halftime. But that's a tremendous job by that Utah defense to force that many, to get the ball back that many amount of times consecutively like they did, especially considering, a lot of these drives started around the Texas Tech 35, 40 yard line, right? Yeah. The defense, that's tough when you're a defense, right? It's easy when you can pin a team inside the 20. Offensive play calling becomes a little bit more predictable, right? You're not going to take as many chances. You're going to try and protect the ball. You're just trying to give yourself some room to get out of that deep, side of that deep side of the field. And Texas Tech never really had to worry about that. And the defense, to get the stops the way that they did, to limit Texas Tech to, 20, 13, 26, 11-yard drives where they had that such positive field position. The defense deserves credit for that. Unfortunately, they also broke at the end of the game, giving up 4 straight possessions with a score, field goal, touchdown to end the game. And that's tough. And obviously that's, I think, reflective of Utah being unable to play complementary football, right? Where they can't control the clock. They can't put together drives. Utah finished yesterday with 5 3-and-outs, and that's tough on any defense. So, I think the defense deserves some credit, but still not a perfect game from them either.
Yeah. I mean, like, I know we all want to talk about, like, they're gassed or anything like that, but like, I don't like excuses. I mean, especially when 8 minutes left in the game and you're only down by 3. Like, it's not like you're getting blown out and you're like, all right, I'm done playing football now. Like, it's still a 3-point game. Get us, like, after Utah scored the touchdown, you get a stop and then drive down the field and at least get points, field goal or a touchdown. Like, it's a completely different game. So, like, maybe the last drive, I guess you can kind of maybe put it on that, but I mean, come on, it's football.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I'm a little bit tired of that kind of excuse, but that's just me.
The 32-yard run by Will Hammond definitely felt like what that broke our back. Like when he ripped that off, it kind of felt like they're going to probably get some points here, and that's going to put it just out of reach, and it was. All
right, let's kind of get to the big thing here. I think I think we all agree, we're in agreement here that, Utah's passing game or lack thereof was largely the biggest contributing factor to their struggles yesterday, right? I think we all agree there.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and so, with that, like, what do we think is going on with the passing game? Like, where do we think the core issue is? What do we think is just going on with Utah's passing game right now?
I don't know. Like I was thinking about that the entire game. Like it's hard because like there's so many different things that go into it. One of my biggest gripes during the game was the play calling. Especially starting early. I think when they were backed up like around their, I don't know, like 10, 12 yard line, it was third and 4, and we're calling a 2-on-3 wide receiver screen. Like guys catching the ball behind the line. Like that was one of those plays where I was kind of like scratching my head. Like, what are we doing? Like this, like, I don't know if Beck was, a little preoccupied with, Texas Tech's front seven and trying to set up like something outside and get athletes in space. I don't know. It was just one of those things where I just kept thinking like, we were too concerned with Texas Tech's front seven that we kind of went away from what was successful the first 3 weeks. And again, that's running the ball, and that's getting Devin out in space and kind of picking, not dinking and dunking, but kind of picking apart short yardage stuff, like short yardage throws. It kind of seemed like because we were too concerned with like how the Texas Tech's front seven was going to be, that we just like swung so far the other way that it just, like, it's not what has been successful for the past 3 weeks. And obviously it's not going to be successful when it's the first time really doing it 4 weeks into the season.
Yeah, it felt like we kept just trying to throw the quick out routes and things like that. We didn't try to touch the middle of the field. We didn't try to throw it more at Bentley. It got really frustrating to watch those 4 and 5 yard routes that we just hit over and over again. We never turned it up a notch and gave it like, hey, let's try to push it just 8 yards at a time, right? Give it a little bit more. So I thought we weren't aggressive enough on the throw game, and it just kind of got to that point that we were just trying to play it safe and play not to lose kind of thing. I don't know, it's cliche to say, but we got so far away from allowing our pass game to be a threat. I think they were totally fine giving us those 4 and 5 yard out routes, and there was a moment where it was third and longer, maybe like 8 or 9, and you throw a 4 yard route, and it's like you got to at least give yourself a chance to get a first down and keep the drive alive. Like, you can't rely on a missed tackle against a team as talented as that. You can't rely on the yak, might not be there, especially on the outside. We don't have much room to run. Tyson's point, the 2v3 screen, like that's just not going to work.
And like the thing too with a lot of these out routes, it's a long throw. Like those are fairly long throws, which take time, and that's just more time for the DB or the linebacker, whoever it is, the defender, to get to the guy with the ball, and harder for the guy who's catching the ball to make it miss, because like you're waiting, you get it, and the angle's just such an odd thing to try and make a move out of. Like, if you want to make someone miss, like you want to become like a quick throw coming in where you have some momentum and you can kind of go based off of where you're already going. If you're going out far away and you're trying to turn it up, like, again, I've been in those situations. That's a really hard play to make as a receiver. Yeah.
And to your guys' point is, all of these attempts, right, added up. And you look at Dampier's completion percentage, pretty solid day, 66%, but 4 yards an attempt is incredibly bad efficiency. Like, just awful. You're not doing anything. You're not generating any sort of threat down the field to give in fact, you're inviting them more and more up the field. Like, that was the frustrating thing about it is, they would take a couple shots here and there, sailed some throws, but just never really tried to attack the intermediate. To your point, Bennett, like, try a 5 yard, 8 yard, 10 yard out route. Like, why are we trying these speed outs at 2 and 3 yards depth? Why are we running, screens, to your point, Tyson, 2-on-3 screens And again, it was, I think he finished 22 of 24 on throws either within 5 yards or behind the line of scrimmage. And like, that's great if you're just out athleting teams and you're generating a ton of yak. But against this Texas Tech defense, you're not going to be able to do that because they have great athletes on that side of the ball in the defensive secondary that made plays. And you've got to put them on their heels. And Utah didn't. They just invited them continually to creep closer and closer to the line of scrimmage even, and to play more and more on their toes. And that's dangerous if you're Utah.
And Tyson, you said it in the channel. You said the horses were there, the ball wasn't. I think that was a big piece of it. We had our wide receivers getting open, creating that separation. We kind of just went away from it and didn't even look at it after a certain point in the game. It felt like, you have that play with Jackson Benny. Why didn't that come up at any other point in the game?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it worked once. You have Merriweather getting open, like wide open, 4.4 speed. He catches that. He's gone. Right. Like it felt like the wide receivers were there and ready to make the plays. We just got to get that ball in the basket.
Like even show it. Just show it. To go back to it and just like show that you're willing to throw it 20, 30 yards downfield. Now, it might not be a completion, but if it's a completion, great. You get an offense or a defensive pass interference, even that's great too. But if you're not even willing to attempt it, Texas Tech can just pin their ears back.
Yeah.
Pin your ears back, play downfield. Like you don't need to worry about a guy getting behind you because they're not going to throw it to him. Yeah,
the dagger in the game, they took a deep shot. They didn't get it. They went right back the very next play, same spot, same sideline, and they got it. Like we put that on the shelf. Even the thought of trying to push the ball down the field, we put that on the shelf and never really pushed the ball. And that's got to change in my eyes. That's got to change.
No, absolutely.
I'm interested
so
to see
vital.
I'm interested to see what went wrong on the wide open Tobias Merriweather miss.
Yeah.
Because Devin missed that so bad that I'm like 90%, 95% sure that Merriweather was supposed to be running a corner.
That's what
I think he got tapped, realizes there's nobody in front of me. I'm just going to keep running straight.
Yeah. So that's
and hope Devin sees me, but he'd already thrown the ball.
Based on the look, I understand what Merriweather is thinking. He's seeing wide open field in front of him. To me, I felt like he was running a vertical and bending it out to the numbers, right? So he's running from the slot, lined up close to the hash marks, and he's trying to bend it while still getting vertical. Because if he stays vertical and Devitt puts it out in front of him, he's going to walk into the end zone. Nobody's going to catch him. But I think the call probably was a corner route, and Dev, thinking that he's going to break out, put it where he thought he should put it. And that's what I think that's important to understand is Devin is throwing to spots, right? And I think there's got to be improvement in terms of the placement of those spots for him with his accuracy. That's certainly something that needs to improve. But we've seen him execute those throws, right? We just watched it last week against Wyoming. We saw him make some great throws down the field, the JJ catch, the Larry Simmons touchdown, right? We've seen it. We know it's there. It's just there was some sort of miscommunication. I think Merriweather even got bumped by Benny breaking inside. And so
Davis.
Maybe Davis, that probably contributed to why Merriweather wasn't able to get outside. But I would be curious to learn exactly what the issue was there. What sort of miscommunication was it, or what, just what it was. What was the issue on that play?
We, again, like you said, we've seen Devin make those throws. We've seen Devin make accurate throws. Like anybody who wants to harp on his, accuracy, I don't think really has a leg to stand on. He's sailed some throws and he's had at times hasn't been accurate, but to miss a guy by 10 yards, I have a really hard time believing that was just that bad of a throw. I could have, if I knew that's where Merriweather was going, I'm not missing him by 10 yards. And I've played quarterback once in my life and I was 12.
Right. Yeah,
I don't see a world where Dampier didn't think he was going to break outside. That's
agreed.
just me, though.
Yeah, no, I agree. Again, because based on the coverage, right, the cornerback stayed up with Davis. It was single high. There was no safety even to that side of the field. He was open. For me, I understand what Merriweather is thinking if he's trying to just get vertical, but at the same time, like if you're Devin, like you're just trying to place it where you're supposed to, and anticipating Merriweather breaking outside if it was a corner.
And he was under pressure too. Like this wasn't Devin just like sitting in a clean pocket and throwing the ball to where he thought the guy was, like, he had to get rid of it. There, he had it right in his face. So like if he's got pressure, he's just going to throw it to where he at least knows the receiver is going to go. Like he knows the play is good. That's why I'm like, again, I'm 95% positive that was supposed to be a corner route, especially with the way that Davis was breaking on a post. You're crossing guys up and you're going one guy one way, one guy going the other way. You're not going vertical with the guy going underneath you.
Yeah. Yeah, I would. I'd be curious to learn about that. I'll probably ask Coach Whittingham about that tomorrow at his press conference. So, with that, I think they talked about it on the broadcast, but we all saw the picture of Devin Dampier earlier in the week with his ankle wrapped, and I think I brought it up with somebody brought it up to me actually, and said that it wouldn't be a big deal, but I would be surprised if that ankle wrap didn't impact him and even Coach Beck to some degree with his ability to execute certain things, with how sharp or unsharp he was on Saturday. I would, and knowing Devin and talking to the people around him, there was no way Devin wasn't going to play in that game, regardless of what his foot, how much pain he was dealing with. He was going to play in that game. I think that's something that we need to keep in mind with these guys, is that they're going to go out there, they're going to give it their all. We've Devin in particular, I think, has that sort of mentality, and he understands how much Utah football means to this community. And I think, he's going to take his performance pretty personally. I think he's going to work exponentially harder this week to correct some issues, to correct and improve on some things this week. And I think that's going to be the key for him, right? I think there's a lot of questions about his ability now after Texas Tech, but I think we need to give Tech credit for being a really good defense. And we also need to understand the context that maybe Dev wasn't fully 100%, and maybe that impacted some things. And then three, his mentality, I think he's going to be the type that learns from this and is determined to improve on this. Like hearing from him in the post-game presser, he was short. You could tell he was stewing quite a bit on that performance. And I think he's the type that understands, again, how much this program means to everybody here and wants to get Utah back to what we know it as.
I promise you nobody's going to be harder on Devin Dampier than Devin Dampier.
100%.
As a former football player, I know exactly where his head's at. Like, nobody's going to be more pissed at himself than himself. Like, and again, as a former player, we're not very smart people when it comes to physical health. Like you said, no, and like Devin's ankle would have had to been hanging off his leg by a thread for him not to play yesterday.
According to someone I talked to tonight that's close with Devin, he literally said, I wrote it down, you would have to cut off his foot for him not to play. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because almost word for word what my guy said.
Yeah, look, we're like, football players are not gonna. Okay, you're gonna talk about the NFL is probably a little bit different because they have millions of dollars on the line. I get that. But college, especially like when you're playing at that level and playing, like you said, for the community, for the school, like if you are physically able to step on a football field, like you're not going to not play. And again, the other thing is Devin's going to be the first person to tell you that his ankle was not an excuse for how he played.
100%.
And he'll tell you that too, whether, how much of an effect it had on him. He knew that going into the game, and he knows how to try and work around that. But again, it just speaks to him as a football player and as a teammate that he still went out there and gave his best, and he's going to be the one to tell you that he's going to take this loss and work and get better and figure it out. Like, again, nobody's going to be harder on Devin Dampier than himself. So I fully trust in him to take this next week as a kind of a get right week for him.
Yeah. And I just want to add some flavor and kind of echo some of the stuff you're saying. It's nobody's going to wear this heavier than him. He's, a lot of the offense, it all starts with the offense, the loss. And, the offense starts with him, and he understands that. He's been dealing with naysayers going back to recruiting out of high school, this measurable, that measurable, whatever. He's been dealing with that. He's not shy from that. This is one of those moments. I think he's the type of guy that will take this personally, use it as fuel to the fire, and onward and upward. We know that he can make these throws. We've seen these throws. The throws that he made in that Wyoming game, we said it then, say it again. Some of those touchdown throws, they translate to anything. It's just, it was a bad game.
Yeah.
Don't let it define the whole season. And he won't. I believe that.
Yeah. I think that's a great segue to the next segment here is, where does Utah go from here, right? You can't, obviously the loss to Texas Tech sucks. It was a great opportunity. It was unfortunately a missed opportunity for Utah. But you move forward, right? You have another game this weekend. You're going on the road to the East Coast, for Utah and what we're sort of watching, what we're evaluating. What is priority number one for Utah this week as they get ready for West Virginia, and what do we think we need to see this week to kind of regain that optimism around this team?
Come out pissed off. Like you can't get beat by Texas Tech twice. You have to bounce back, and it all is going to start tomorrow. That's priority number one is attitude. Have your attitude in check from day one this work week.
Yeah, you beat me to it. That was the first thing I was going to say is don't let Texas Tech beat you twice in a row. I was a part of a team that lost game 3 of a season. We didn't have a conference championship in the conference that I played in, but whoever won that game was essentially going to be the conference champion because no one else was going to beat either team for the rest of the year. A team can take that two ways. They can kind of see it as like, all right, season's kind of up now, or you can take it as all right, we run the table and we get a crack at them a second time. You want revenge, then earn that revenge game. Because at this point, it's win out if you want that revenge game against Texas Tech in Arlington. So use it as motivation. Move on. Look straight at West Virginia. Don't overlook them. Don't think about last week. Don't think about the coming weeks. It's one game at a time. You're 0-0, and you need to go 8-0 for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be really interesting. I think we will learn a lot about Utah based on how they perform next week in Morgantown, right? We're going to learn a lot about the leadership, the player-led leadership specifically this week in terms of how they come out next season, or not next season, but next week. I think we're just going to learn a lot about this team and how they respond to adversity. I was talking with somebody tonight, and they said, you would rather have adversity early in the season to learn from it, to grow from it, to use it as motivation for the rest of the way, right? Because that this game is going to stick in the craw of everybody on that team because there were opportunities to take control of that game that they just didn't take advantage of. And that's going to grind a lot of gears. That's going to stick. And I think for Utah, responding to this game, I think is going to mean a lot for the rest of the season. And I think with Devin Dampier, I've been really impressed with the way that he's handled coming to Utah, the leadership that he's displayed. And I think the other guys around him, the guys on the defensive side of the ball, that you can count on them to provide the leadership there with Lander Barton and some of the other guys on that side of the ball. But I think this is going to be a big week for Utah in terms of needing to get right. I think this is that type of game. And with Rich Rod, they're not just going to allow Utah to come in and get right. They're going to put up a fight. They're coming off a tough loss to Kansas. And so Utah is going to have to go into that one, ready for a fight, and they're going to have to, come in ready to go. So I think this weekend will tell us a lot about Utah and what to expect from them moving forward. I would be curious, are there certain benchmarks that we need to see from Utah, whether it be in the passing game or whether it be in the, establishing the run again? Do we feel like there's anything that we need to see in those phases of the game offensively?
I personally think you need to show that you have the ability to go deep and to hit those explosive plays. If Utah goes back to, running the same kind of stuff they ran against Cal Poly and Wyoming and UCLA, where, you always want to establish a run. That's just Utah football. But if I don't see a lot of, kind of wrinkles in the offense where we're going kind of deeper down the field, maybe taking some shots kind of deep middle, off to the sidelines, like I'll be a little less optimistic about the year just because it shows to me that they didn't necessarily learn anything.
Yeah.
Because
or
again,
that they're just incapable.
Yeah,
right? Like,
or you're incapable of
is,
doing it, which is just as concerning as that. So, I think opening up the offense a little bit, even to be honest, even if it comes at the expense of maybe, obviously you want to win the game. So, like, I'm going to say this is not winning by as much as you probably could have because you were taking a little bit more risk in the passing game. I'm okay with that, as long as it shows that, the offense is going to open up a little bit more, because you can go back to what worked and win games based off of that. But, you come up against another team that can kind of do the same thing that Texas Tech did, and then you don't have an answer for it. So that's the biggest thing for me is opening up the offense a little bit more. Will kind of base the rest of my season expectations, I guess.
Yeah, the stat for you, 6.2. That's our average yards per pass attempt. That's good for, or I could say bad for, 15th in the conference. Would like to see that.
It's even worse nationally.
I don't even want to go that far. I don't want to see triple digits. But no, at 6.2, I'd like to see that elevated a little bit, especially the Texas Tech. You said it was 4.3?
4.2.
4.2. Got to get closer to that 8. Like, get to the middle of the conference. I know we're not trying to take the top off every play, but we got to throw it for more, just so we're actually doing something when we're throwing it.
Yeah, I think 8 yards per attempt. I think that's a number that we should strive for. I think that's a number that Utah needs to hit this weekend. I think there will be opportunities. West Virginia, did a good job of limiting Jalen Daniels, with Kansas this last weekend. So it's not going to be easy. They're not going to just be gifted 8 yards an attempt. They're going to have to do some things. They're going to have to, execute at a good level to get that number. But I do think that's a number that Utah should shoot for. I also think it's going to be important to reestablish the run. And I think that's going to be a thing, on the offensive line specifically. The line has to dominate. They've got to get back to, playing that bully ball and not allowing. I think that's where I worry the most, is the way that Texas Tech played coming into Rice-Eccles and playing the way that they did. I'm worried about that group specifically, and I want to see them bounce back pretty emphatically. So those are some things that I think are really key for Utah going into West Virginia. I would be curious, your thoughts on just kind of the bigger picture, right? Beyond West Virginia next week, where are we at in terms of Utah and their outlook moving forward? And what is the key for Utah moving forward?
I think if you want to get into goals for the year, I think obviously Utah's still going to have what would be considered by many places or many schools a good season. I still think 8 to 9 wins is kind of the floor for this team. But if your aspirations are bigger than that, if your aspirations are, going to the Big 12 championship game and potentially the playoff, you can't lose again. You got to win out.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
And again, you can take that as pressure or you can take it as motivation, and it'll be interesting to see how this team takes that. Because again, you got to take it. It's kind of like the Rocky 3 moment. Like there's no tomorrow. You can't save anything anymore. You got to win out.
Yeah.
And you got to take that as that kind of motivation. You got to come in, you got to kick everyone's tails for the rest of the year if you want that opportunity again. Because like we said, like this is going to stick in the team's minds for the rest of the year. This game, you're going to be sick about this all year. So if you want that revenge game, you got to go out there and earn that.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, you look at last year, there were 4 teams tied with 2 losses. So that's 2 teams with 2 losses that got left out, and real unfortunate for one of them, or probably both of them actually. But anyway, I mean, it's you can maybe get one more loss, but it has to be in the right spot, and it's just not worth gambling because again, half the teams didn't get there. So yeah, very little room for error here, and something to keep in mind. In 2021, we started the season 1-2, albeit not conference loss, but we started the season off the rails. Cam Rising, thank you for coming in, saving us from that. And then 2022, I mean, again, not a conference loss, but we started off, we lost to Florida on the road. We had an early-ish loss to UCLA in conference play, but we know that Kyle Whittingham teams can rattle off a lot of wins in a row, and we're going to need to. So it starts Saturday against West Virginia, get a bye. Arizona State also has a bye. That's a showdown in Salt Lake on October 11th. Win that. And now you can start thinking, all right, we got this game against BYU. Win that. All of a sudden, the loss to Texas Tech doesn't feel so bad. 3-1 across that stretch doesn't feel bad. That's a tough stretch. 4 tough games. West Virginia, not a great team, but that's a coach that can coach. It's traveling across the country to the East Coast, coming off of a week where you got embarrassed. It all starts this week, but this next little stretch is crucial. And if we get out unscathed in the next 3 games, we're back right where we need to be.
I think another key to the next little stretch here, right, is identifying the playmakers on offense, right? It's been fun through the first 3 weeks to watch, the difference in terms of who's getting touches and all the guys getting involved. I think that is an element to Jason Beck's offense that, it's been fun to watch. But you've got to figure out who your guys are, who are going to be the guys that'll make the plays. Who can you go to in those moments, right? Can it be Wayshawn Parker taking hold of that running back position? He looked like the only guy capable of generating really positive yardage on the ground against Texas Tech, and those athletes who are going to be the guys in the passing game. Can Tobias Merriweather get going? It looks like what you have in Ryan Davis, Dallin Bentley as well. It can't just be those 2. You've got to figure out who else can step up. So that's going to be a key these next couple of weeks. West Virginia next week, the bye week, and then Arizona State is the real test, because that BYU game in Provo, that's going to be a tough one if you only have a couple of guys that you're going to on offense. So that's going to be a key. And then for the defense, I think this group has really impressed so far this season. John Henry Daly is lights out coming off of that edge. Jackson Benny has been, he's made plays, but he's got work to do in terms of, tightening things up in coverage. Smith Snowden, I would love to see him focus solely on defense the rest of the season.
Yes, please.
It's just let's keep him there, keep him locked in there, let him do his thing in star coverage. And that's where the focus needs to be. So I'd like to see that moving forward. I thought Jonathan Hall had a good second half against Texas Tech, and I hope that he can build on that moving forward. You're going to need him to be that guy as well. And then just continuing to play, complementary football. That's going to be the key for Utah moving forward. So, I'm with you guys, right? It all starts next week. Got to get back on the right track, and it starts next week with what we'll learn and what we'll see in terms of the player leadership with this group. So let's take a step back and look at the Big 12 picture here and just kind of talk our way through the Big 12 conference now. So I'm going to pull up our Big 12 power rankings. How would you guys tier this off? I have it Texas Tech, TCU, and Iowa State in a tier of their own. I think those are the top 3 programs in the Big 12 right now. What do we think of that? What do we think of those 3 teams?
I might put Texas Tech by themselves right now.
Okay.
At this point in the season. And maybe like tier 1A is Texas Tech and tier 1B is TCU and Iowa State. Like it's kind of tough for me to say that TCU and Iowa State are on Texas Tech's level right now. And I'm not just saying that because they just embarrassed my favorite team, but
yeah.
They look the part more than anybody else. I know TCU I think they just manhandled was it North Carolina? No, that was UCF. Who they just beat this week?
SMU.
Oh, SMU. I still think Texas Tech still just looks the part more than those two. Like I said, you can make it tier 1A and 1B, but yeah, it's probably those 3 at the top right now.
Yeah, I like that. I'm with Tyson. Texas Tech in a league of its own. There's no notes on that team, no questions. They've got it moving, especially if they can find some of that magic they had with Will Hammond. They're good on both sides of the ball. But TCU, Iowa State, rank them either which way, flip-flop them either which way. TCU, I still feel like got to see a little bit more, but I'd probably say they look a little more put together, a little more balanced. Iowa State, let's see. I like these 3 where they are.
Okay. And Tyson, like I agree in a lot of ways. I think Texas Tech, with the way that they performed against Utah, I think I'd put them in a tier of their own maybe. But I think these 3 are certainly at the top of the conference right now in terms of the conversation. In the next tier, I've only got 2 teams in my second tier. I think these are teams that have a lot of answers, but there's still just kind of some question marks around them. I've got Arizona State and BYU in tier 2 for me. How do you guys feel about those 2 teams?
I think that's fair.
Yeah, they don't have any conference losses, so the teams that would be nipping on those heels they've got conference losses. So yeah, I'd keep them 4 and 5.
Yeah. Okay. And then the third tier, this is kind of the middle of the pack right now. I've got 7 teams in this tier. I've got Baylor, Utah, Houston, Colorado, Kansas, and Arizona in this tier. I think, there are some bigger question marks with each of these teams. Houston has looked solid, but are they really ready for that next step up? Colorado, got a nice win over Wyoming, but still the offense isn't clicking. Utah, obviously, we've talked about the passing game throughout the episode. Baylor, are they going to be able to stop the run, play defense? So that's this third tier, the middle of the pack. What do you guys make of that?
Personally, I'd bump UCF up into that tier and drop Colorado to the next one.
Ooh, okay.
I like that. I'd probably push Arizona to the front of this just because they do have the unblemished conference record. But they also look like Noah Fifita looks like he's having fun again. And they've got a big matchup. Fair. They've got a big matchup this week. They were on bye. Iowa State was on bye. Those 2 show down this upcoming week. So that's going to be really where you learn a lot. But Arizona a little higher here. I'd say Kansas a little higher here. Kansas looked pretty good.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
That Utah, Houston, Colorado, I feel like that's fair until we can prove that we can score points on offense. I mean, we're mid, as the kids would say.
Okay. That's fair. Move Utah down 10, 11. Move Kansas, Arizona up 7, 8 spots. I think that's fair. And then, the final 2 tiers here, Kansas State, Cincinnati, and West Virginia. And then in a tier of their own at the very bottom is Oklahoma State. And I think we all understand, with Oklahoma State, what's going on there. Pretty brutal.
Yeah. I don't know. I like it's so it's. Has there been a bigger like just crazy fall from like where they were to where they are now? Like it's hard for me to think of another team that just dropped that far off that has that kind of like, you know, not legendary coach, but like, you know, what probably Oklahoma State's best coach ever. This is again, it's like it feels worse than Utah between, you know,
Oh, it's worse.
2023 and 2024. Like because they did the same thing. And then it's continued.
Yeah.
Like
it's gotten worse.
It's crazy to me. Like how
mean,
how far they've fallen so fast.
And Kansas State is giving them a run for their money right now
That's
with
true.
the way that they're playing. You know, like both of those teams were in the conference championship not too long ago, and now you know they're both not looking great. So really surprising. But that's what we've seen in the Big 12 the last 2 seasons, right? It's been crazy.
It's supposed to be Utah, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, just the dogs.
Hasn't happened.
No,
it hasn't happened. Man. All right. Well, that'll do it for our power rankings. Fellas, any final thoughts before we put a bow on this one?
Move on. Don't let Texas Tech beat you twice. Run the table. Ideally.
Can't wait to see how we react. Somebody said it in the space pretty well. You could say we suck. You could say we sucked. Let's just hope that we sucked and that we don't suck.
I think that I think that sums it up well. I think we're all hoping for that. And like we said throughout the episode, we're going to learn a lot about Utah this week with the leadership, with how they respond to adversity, all that type of stuff. And you know, I'm interested to see how it goes. So for the Utah Blockcast, we'll be signing off. I'll be back on the solo grind this week. We'll have Kyle Whittingham's press conference tomorrow. We're also going to be doing some basketball stuff, men's and women's basketball stuff this week. They've got some availability, which means, you know, basketball season is right around the corner as well. So lot going on for Utah athletics. And I think, again, with Utah football being the big conversation right now, need to get back on track this week. So for myself, for Bennett, for Tyson, signing off, the Utah Blockcast. We'll be back at it tomorrow.